Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to NoDQ Live here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. We have the Smackdown Live with WrestleMania less than 3 weeks to go to discuss. The big match / storyline on this show was the Gauntlet match, with Kofi Kingston trying to get his spot at WrestleMania against Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. Let's go ahead and break down this show. So here's a funny thing, and this just goes to show that WWE does in fact change plans. Jack Gibbons with a $3 super chat says, Rift is GOAT. Thank you very much for that, Jack. Much appreciated. WWE changes plans, let's face it. And I know some people say, well, that's just a cop-out. If the news is wrong, you can always just say plans change. But tonight was a perfect example of the fact that plans do change. So WWE.com announced the other day that the Gauntlet match would kick off SmackDown Live, that they had it in writing. SmackDown Live kicks off with The Miz coming out for a promo. Miz had the video recap shown of all the stuff that led up to Shane McMahon turning against him at the pay-per-view, Fastlane. Miz talked about like he just wanted to make his dad proud of him, and he said that Shane McMahon did make that happen for him by agreeing to be tag team partners. However, Miz noted that people had warned him about Shane McMahon. And then the worst thing about the whole situation, according to Miz, was that Shane put his hands on the Miz's dad, and Miz said that he would not forget about it. He called Shane a vile, disgusting human being and said that Shane was not born best in the world, but rather the worst. Then Miz said that the McMahons may own the company, but they do not own him, and they sure as hell don't own Kofi Kingston. And he said that instead of flipping burgers, he ended up managing to become WWE champion, and he somehow got to where he's at today through hard work. Tony H with a $2 super chat. He says, Daddy H did not like SmackDown Live. Interesting comment there from the new dad, Tony H. Congratulations once again, and thank you for the super chat. Miz then brought up his hard work and how hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard enough. Interesting quote there from the Miz. He said that he had to earn the respect from the fans over the years, and then closed his promo by saying that Shane McMahon is going to earn an ass whooping at WrestleMania, and that's what Shane deserves. Good promo by The Miz, lots of intensity, although it's a lot of the same stuff The Miz always talks about in his promos, how he's had to work so hard, real world people did not take him seriously. He's cut the same promo a lot, but it was still good. I still thought it was a good promo from The Miz. Next up, we had Sasha Banks and Bayley, the Boss and Hug Connection. I just despise that tag team name. It's just so corny as far as I'm concerned. Sasha and Bayley versus the IKonics. Interesting to note that this was Sasha's first match on SmackDown since July of 2016, and actually Bayley's first ever match on SmackDown. IKonics cut a promo before the match. They got their full entrance, so my spidey senses were tingling here. The fact that the IKonics got a full entrance, got to do their promo. If Bayley and Sasha were just going to go right through them, IKonics probably would not have even gotten an entrance. They got the full entrance, they got their full promo time, which made me think we were going to see maybe a big upset here. The IKonics cut their promo, talked about how Sasha and Bayley look small and scared in the ring, and they're going outside their comfort zone by going to NXT to make themselves feel important. We had the match, and then Lacey Evans came out during the match and did her walk to the ring and walk back. She still needs that t-shirt as a parody of Steve Austin, arrive, leave. Instead of the raise hell in the middle, she just arrives, leaves, and that's her t-shirt. I'm surprised WWE hasn't done it yet. But anyways, back to the match. Billie Kay kicked Bayley on the outside of the ring, and then Sasha got rolled up by Peyton Royce, and Billie, for good measure, grabbed Sasha's feet. And yes, the IKonics scored the pinfall victory over Sasha and Bayley, which means we are probably getting the IKonics added to WrestleMania, something like a 4-team match. Jack with a $2 super chat donation. I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of the last name. He says, yo, Aaron, any tips on how to stay hard during sex? Well, if it's not working out for you, then it's probably just Mother Nature and you're going to need some sort of supplement like Blue Chew or whatever it's called. That's all I can tell you, my friend. Sometimes Mother Nature just isn't in your favor. So next up, we had a Rey Mysterio interview backstage, and he was joined by his son, Dominic, who some of you may remember from that 2005 storyline with Eddie Guerrero, the, the custody of Dominic on a pole match, or there was a ladder match for custody of Dominic. What a storyline that was, by the way. But anyways, Dominic was here, and since we last saw him, he's all grown up now. He towers over his son. I mean, Rey Mysterio is not a very tall guy, but Dominic's easily 6 feet tall. It was revealed that because Rey Mysterio defeated Samoa Joe last week on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio will get a championship opportunity for the U.S. title at WrestleMania. Probably the kickoff. Wouldn't shock me if it's the kickoff. But yeah, Rey Mysterio's getting the U.S. title match versus Joe. As of now, it's a one-on-one match. We'll see if that changes, of course. Colin Mack with a $2 super chat says, take this since you had to read that filth. Where's RTC to censor some of these super chats? That's all I gotta say. I am looking forward to Rey Mysterio versus Joe, but my fear is it's going to be on the kickoff and it's going to be a total throwaway match. We had the Kevin Owens show. Kevin Owens had a brand new KO show logo, new graphics. He was wearing a nice little red tie. He introduced Charlotte and Becky Lynch. We had a little bit of comedy here, which was odd for me considering the fact that this is probably going to be the main event of WrestleMania, and they're doing comedy here, and poor Owens is doing comedy. Owen was reading these cards with various disses from Charlotte to Becky and Becky to Charlotte, but I'm already jumping ahead here. Owens said that the time for talk is over. He wants to see fight Becky fight Charlotte fight, and Charlotte got on the mic and said that she was going to beat the holy hell out of Becky. Becky responded by decking her, and we had this fight break out, a pull-apart brawl. You know, WWE's always got to do the pull-apart brawls. And, of course, it's like the easiest thing in the world because the crowd always chants, let them fight, every time. Doesn't matter the city. Doesn't matter how many times you do it. The fans will always chant, let them fight. It's like the easiest crowd pop in the world, these pull-apart brawls. Although it wasn't with the locker room, at least. It was just the referees. I guess for the women, they just got to have the referees out there. I thought the segment was okay, but unnecessary. I mean, I feel like Charlotte, Becky, and even Ronda, especially Charlotte and Becky, since they've been appearing on both shows, they've gotten overexposed a little bit, and I think that might be hurting the match just a tad bit, in my opinion. Again, I feel if Becky ends up winning the title at WrestleMania, I think people will overlook the storyline issues leading up to the pay-per-view and the build. But if Becky loses, people are going to just really crap on this whole storyline. Becky had no crutch. She was limping, though, a little bit. So at least she's not 100% healed yet. I would have complained if she came out and wasn't limping at all after all that crap that went down the past couple of weeks. Moving on here, we had AJ Styles do a backstage promo. He said that, yes, Randy Orton has been great. Randy Orton was a first-round draft pick while AJ Styles was a walk-on, but look where AJ's at now. And he says that, yeah, it is Randy Orton's house, but at WrestleMania, AJ is going to tear that house down. And then he also wished Kofi Kingston good luck in his match. I guess Seth Rollins burns down. Well, he burns it down, and then AJ tears it down. Whatever. We had Daniel Bryan come out for a promo with Erick Rowan, and Bryan said that Kofi being in the match is an injustice because Kofi doesn't deserve it. Kofi lost his opportunities, like the first gauntlet match. He lost at Elimination Chamber. He's a B-plus player. B-plus player. And then we had the gauntlet match, which pretty much took up the whole second hour of SmackDown. First up, it was Kofi versus former WWE Champion Sheamus. Crowd chanted, "You look stupid" at Sheamus. Cesaro interfered during the match. He uppercutted Kofi when the referee wasn't looking. You had the New Day and the Usos watching on the TV monitor, and Usos, for some reason, were eating pancakes while watching the match. Okay. Kofi ended up countering the bro kick and defeating Sheamus with the Trouble in Paradise. And this led to Kofi Kingston versus Cesaro. More members of the SmackDown locker room were watching. You had the Hardys. You had Mustafa Ali watching the match now. Kofi ended up beating Cesaro with the SOS. So, yeah, Kofi single-handedly beat the former tag team champions. I could have sworn New Day struggled to beat the Bar when it was 2-on-2 for all those years, but I guess we're supposed to forget about all that stuff. I feel like I'm starting to sound like Virtue now. You know, I don't think this is as bad as Jinder Mahal's sudden rise to the top because Jinder was enhancement talent. Kofi was a mid-carder for the longest time. I do have a little bit of a suspension of disbelief here that Kofi can beat all these guys. I know they're playing this up as the big miracle that Kofi's overcoming the odds, but to me, number one, it's predictable that this is the route it was going in. And second, it's hard to suspend disbelief. You know it's coming. You know he's going to beat all these guys, but I'm still watching this play out, and I'm like, I really don't buy into this. Kofi Kingston was a mid-carder for all these years, and you know, he single-handedly beat the tag team champions when the New Day struggled to beat them when, quite frankly, it was 3-on-2 if you want to include all three members of New Day at ringside. Virtue's very happy that I'm saying this. I'm slowly turning into Virtue. I need a Snickers bar. I'm not me when I'm hungry. Jay with the $2 super chat says, could have sworn the Usos were heels. No, the Usos have been baby faces for a while. They recently went back to being faces. They made peace with the New Day not too long ago. So yeah, they're back to being good guys for the time being. Next match we had was the next part of the gauntlet. I guess this was on one big match, the gauntlet match. Erick Rowan came out for the next match, and he came out to the Bludgeon Brothers music, which was super awkward because he's coming out with that scary music, but then you have the Erick Rowan Recycle logo on the Titantron as he's walking out there to this scary music. It just didn't fit at all. It was so awkward to me. But anyways, not much to this. Erick Rowan got DQ'd. He used a steel chair. The storyline is that he's making sure that Bryan is protected by taking out Kofi with the steel chair, giving him the iron claw choke slam through the table. And then we had Samoa Joe come out, and I'm just shaking my head here. I'm like, Poor Joe. After all that, he's going to job to Kofi next. Samoa Joe, this killer, the U.S. champion, is going to job out to Kofi Kingston now after Kofi got all this stuff happening to him. Jack, with another $2 super chat, says, how many bowling pins has Virtue sat on in his life? I'm guessing a lot, but I cannot speak for Virtue. You're going to have to ask him that question if you're really dying to know. We had Samoa Joe come out. He beat up Kofi for a while. And then you had pretty much the entire locker room watching the match, cheering on Kofi Kingston. And then we had Joe put the coquina clutch on, but then Kofi countered out of it and rolled up Joe for the 3 count to basically, I guess this is okay because he beat Joe, you know, pretty much by a fluke, got a lucky roll up. Although, here we go with the logic again. Okay, guys, if this is a real fight, all this stuff happened to Kofi Kingston, and we're supposed to believe that he had enough strength to roll up a guy like Samoa Joe. This wasn't Mustafa Ali that was being rolled up. This is Samoa Joe, a guy much stronger than Kofi Kingston, who's fresh. So we're supposed to believe that Kofi had enough strength to hold down Samoa Joe in a roll-up for a 3 count. And little bit of a issue here, but I guess it could have been worse. I guess Kofi could have just beat him with the Trouble in Paradise and whatever. Carbon Silk Thread says Kofi was gassed the entire time. Just accept it. Mr. Tim Lee 84 says stop hating Aaron. Uh-oh, I'm starting to get heat, guys. I'm starting to get heat in my own chat room now. You know this is bad because usually it's just Twitter where everyone gets on my case. But when I start criticizing SmackDown, that's like the end of the line for people because SmackDown is like, it's the end-all be-all of great shows and you cannot say anything bad about SmackDown. Marcus with a $2 super chat. What's the difference? Kofi and Mankind's push in 98. Well, I don't remember Mankind beating like 5 of the top heels in one match. I don't remember that. If he did do that. Actually, wait a minute. Triple H had to run the gauntlet. I do remember that. And he somehow, although that was a typical Russo show where there was interference in every single part of the match. Here, the New Day could not interfere at all. So you had no out. You know, when Triple H ran the gauntlet as a heel, by the way, Vince made him run the gauntlet in 99. Pretty much every match had some kind of interference or screw job because it was Vince Russo booking it. And speaking of Russo, I know Virtue loves his bowling pins, Vince Russo branded bowling pins. Virtue with a $2 super chat says, I'm not always right, but when I'm right, I'm right. Well, there you go. I mean, Virtue's always right. Marcus says this Virtue guy is goofy. Anyways, after Samoa Joe got beat, he went on a rampage. He choked out Kofi Kingston with a coquina clutch in the ropes. And then Randy Orton came out for the final match. Randy Orton brought out that old line from 2010. So just in case you guys don't remember, in 2010, right when Kofi's big singles push ended, it was Kofi versus Randy Orton. And apparently Kofi messed up something, messed up a spot, and Randy Orton yelled stupid at him. And Kofi's push pretty much ended after that. And people always remember that and were calling out Randy Orton, saying he was burying Kofi and all this stuff. So, of course, we got a little callback to that with Randy Orton calling Kofi stupid during the match. Kofi managed to get out of an RKO attempt and hit the Trouble in Paradise on Orton. However, Orton was able to roll out of the ring. And then later on, Orton got back into the game and then went for another RKO, but Kofi rolled him up. And again, same thing with Joe. He rolls up. Orton somehow had the energy. I guess this is a little bit more logical because Orton is not as strong as Samoa Joe. But at the same time, Kofi's even more tired and he still is able to roll him up. So whatever. Corey Graves called it the single greatest performance in WWE history. Vince McMahon came out and said congratulations to Kofi, but Kofi has to beat one more opponent, and that opponent was Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan came out. Kofi actually hit the SOS. Crowd thought this was going to be it. Bryan kicked out, and then he did another roll-up, but once again, we got a kick out from Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan hit the running knee and scored the victory over Kofi Kingston. So in the storyline, Kofi Kingston is not going to WrestleMania. Vince McMahon, his vendetta against Kofi prevailed, and Kofi is screwed for tonight. So who is going to come to Kofi's rescue next week? I guess you're going to have to tune in and find out. So that was SmackDown. I mean, I might get heat for this, but I don't think it was a great show. If Kofi wins, it's a feel-good moment. Yeah, whatever. I'll just go with the flow. But I wasn't blown away by this show. I'm still not really feeling the whole Vince McMahon storyline. I had issues suspending disbelief with Kofi. If it was Stone Cold Steve Austin in the gauntlet match, then yeah, I could take that more seriously. But, you know, to back up what Virtue says, Kofi Kingston was a mid-carder for 10 years. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that he can beat all these guys. Yeah, I get the story you're trying to tell, that he's pulling the miracle and the machine's against him. But why is Vince against him in the first place? It still hasn't been explained to me for me to be able to get invested in the storyline. So to me, this is a flawed storyline. It's cute and all. It's nice for Kofi. I feel happy for the guy. But it's flawed. Show gets a C from me. And that's lower than usual for SmackDown. I give this show a C. Oh my God, Ruler with a $2 super chat says Kofi puts his career on the line because, like, F Vince. I mean, he may do that. I mean, we've seen that before, where when the deck is stacked against The Rock would put his career on the line and do stuff like that. So that may be the next step in the storyline. D Ross 2 with a C-, CC Drink with a C+, Zachary with a C, Caitlin gave it a C. Kayfabe Candy S says tonight was the right time for Kofi to win. Now it's like just get it over with. Israel with a C. Noah Foster with a B. Noah said still better than Raw. My thoughts are below with a D. Lewis with a D. Marcus with a B, Maniac with a D, Carbon Silk Thread with a D-. So it actually wasn't as unanimously praised as I thought it might be. I feel like you guys are feeling a mixed reaction to this show, as was I. I still say the match after tonight, the match I'm looking forward to the most is AJ Styles versus Randy Orton, even though this made me a little less interested in the match now because Randy Orton's losing to a roll-up to Kofi Kingston, who was wrestling for 45 minutes. So why, you know, it's hard for me to really consider Orton a threat now. I mean, to me, it hurt my enjoyment of AJ versus Orton. So yeah, WrestleMania, it's going to be probably an 8-hour show. It may be the longest WWE pay-per-view of all time. There's a rumor that there's perhaps going to be 17 matches, which is just absolutely insane. I still argue for the 2-day WrestleMania. I know some people have mixed feelings on it. It's another night of WWE, but I like the idea of charging people for one ticket. They can use that ticket. They have the same seat for both shows, and you just charge them more money. I mean, the diehard fans are going to spend the money anyways, and they get 2 nights of action. It gives people a chance to rest up. I think the crowd heat would be better. So I would make those arguments for doing WrestleMania as a 2-day event. Just doing 8 hours of this, it's just too long. It's too long of a show. And I'm surprised that WWE still draws the big crowds to WrestleMania as they keep getting longer and longer, because to me, it's not that appealing. Like, WrestleMania 31 was fun, but that was pushing it. I think that was close to a 6-hour show, and I was just like, this is too long. I mean, maybe 5 hours if you want to make WrestleMania bigger than the other shows, but now we're talking about potentially 8 hours for WrestleMania with something like 17 matches. I don't know. Marcus disagrees. He thinks the 2-day event idea is dumb. I would prefer one night for WrestleMania, but it's got to be cut down. If we're going to have one night of WrestleMania, I would much prefer it to be cut down to a 5-hour show at the absolute most. All right, guys, so I'll go ahead and wrap up this edition of NoDQ Live. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate your viewership. I will be doing a special NoDQ&A live this Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and that'll be something like 8 o'clock in the UK, something like that. I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Jay with a $2 super chat, so don't go yet. If Vince's word is final, how does Kofi get in now? Again, that's why you're going to have to tune in next week. I'm sure there will be something that will happen. I don't know who's going to come in because Shane's a heel now. I guess Triple H is a babyface for the moment. Maybe Stephanie is a babyface for the moment. I don't know. But then again, how do they have authority over Vince? Yeah, maybe Kofi puts his career on the line. I mean, I'm sure WWE will think of something. It'll probably just be something dumb, but they'll come up with something, a way for Kofi to get into the match, whatever. But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. Thank you all again. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest